I guess they don't like me, but let me just tell you, these are losers from day one. Guys like Bill Kristol, he's 0-32. George Conway, you take a look at him. Just take a look at that guy. The man's a stone-cold loser. So they should not call it the Lincoln Project. It's not fair to Abraham Lincoln, a great president. They should call it the Losers Project.
The president not happy with a new ad from a group of conservatives who haven't been shy in going after him. On Monday, the Lincoln Project released this ad. They call it Mourning in America, but it's a different spelling of mourning than the gauzy Reagan campaign ad of the same title. This one you see is about our current president and the coronavirus.
There's mourning in America, and under the leadership of Donald Trump, our country is weaker and sicker and poorer. And now, Americans are asking, if we have another 4 years like this, will there even be an America?
And in that way, just by adding the letter U, you can get everybody's attention. The ad was debuted on social media a few days back, but then it aired last night on Fox News. And so just before 1 a.m. this morning, the president took to his phone to attempt to fillet the founding members of the Lincoln Project, including our next guest. Back again with us tonight, Steve Schmidt, veteran political strategist who led John McCain's 2008 campaign and has since left the Republican Party entirely. So, Steve, why did you guys get under his skin now?
Well, I think the ad, Brian, states a truth, which is that his leadership has been profoundly deficient. This is somebody who ran for president promising to make America great again, and his legacy will be one of death, suffering, and economic collapse. And the scenes that we're seeing play out all over the country did not have to be. Job of the president is to protect the country. Donald Trump has been completely derelict in his duty. The Chinese played him for a fool. A dozen times he said that the Chinese were doing a tremendous job at this, that this would disappear overnight, that there were 15 cases here, but soon there would be 0, and we're cruising towards 100,000 dead Americans. And we see the moral incapacity of this president to grieve with the country, to understand the level of suffering. And when we look at the economy, I think it's important to understand the economy did not collapse because of the coronavirus, and it has not collapsed in other countries around the world. It collapsed because of the ineptitude of the governmental response to it. And he's making it worse, not better. And I think that the ad hit a truth, and he didn't like it very much. But I think that we're going to see more truth-telling in the weeks and months ahead, and Donald Trump can't spin his way out of reality, which is that he's the most inept president in a crisis this nation's ever had. That's why he looks so small next to Abraham Lincoln in the temple that we erected to honor the memory of the man who saved the Union.
I was going to ask you about that. Your group is so named because of your collective love for Abraham Lincoln, something all of you founders made clear in a series of speeches at Cooper Union in New York as you stood behind the lectern that Lincoln himself used. I wanted to know what you made of the image of this president sitting, in effect, at the stone feet of Lincoln and saying, without irony or box seats for our American cousin, that he's been treated worse than Abraham Lincoln.
It's truly incredible. It just shows the weakness, the profound weakness of Donald Trump as a leader, as a man, to sit there in the shadow of Abraham Lincoln, who was martyred really on the anniversary of the day that Lincoln was laid to rest in Springfield, sitting there at the feet of the greatest president, our American martyr, between on the walls that are opposed, the Gettysburg Address and the second inaugural that talks about charity for all and malice towards none. He possesses literally every quality that Lincoln stood opposed to. The qualities of Lincoln's greatness, literally, Donald Trump shares none of them. He has a lack of empathy, a lack of humility, a lack of vision, a lack of competence. He's been the worst president in the history of the country facing a crisis. Ironically, The worst president until now was the man who preceded Abraham Lincoln, the 15th president, Buchanan. I guess he's smiling up there looking down, gratified he's not the worst president in American history anymore.
President contended today not even the Democrats blame him for the state of the economy and unemployment, but do you?
Well, of course, and I think it's not the case that Democrats don't blame him. Look, nobody blames Donald Trump for there being a coronavirus, a novel coronavirus. I think what's fair to blame Donald Trump for is the lack of preparedness by the federal government, the lack of vital equipment, the lack of testing to this day. We have the President of the United States on a stage from the White House advising the American people to shoot up Lysol. It's an absurdity. These news conferences every day, we have a president of the United States talking to the country in one of the great crises in the history of the country, comparing his ratings to the Bachelor finale. At every conceivable level, he has shown himself unfit for this moment. And the challenge for the country as we look ahead to the presidential election, the recovery from this event, which is one of the most epic in the country's history, will take many, many years. We're likely to see unemployment rates of 30%. And what he's demonstrated is a complete incapacity for leadership over and over and over again, whether it's the dishonesty, whether it's the happy talk, whether it's the partisan attacks. At every moment when he was called to be bigger, when he was called to be great, he was small, and therefore greatness in a moment where the country required it and needed it has eluded him. And what the country has been saddled with is a level of ineptitude and incompetence that makes our allies tremble and our adversaries cheer.
Steve Schmidt, thank you, sir, for being with us. Thanks for having us in. We always appreciate it.